Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Giovanni, founder and CEO of PROBr, a digital research platform that aims to make joining research studies a lot easier. And I am here with Anna, whose Instagram handle is Disability with Anna. If you can tell us a bit more about yourself for this introduction, please.
Sure. Thank you, Giovanni. My name is Anna. I live with chronic illnesses and mental illnesses. I live with ankylosing spondylitis and fibromyalgia and premenstrual dysphoric disorder, among others. And I am also a research partner involved in various research studies, and I raise awareness online for chronic illness and mental health.
Oh, beautiful. You're doing a lot. And I guess we'll start at the simple part of it. Basically, why did you choose the name Disability with Anna on Instagram? Like, what does it symbolize for you? Or was it just a name that was just easy to think of?
It was actually a bit of a process to get to that name. So I initially created the account like 4 years ago, and I had chronically ill XO as like a placeholder because I was like, I don't quite know what I want my account to be yet and what I'm going to share. So I was like, I'm just going to have this for now. And it took me about 2 years to land on Disability with Anna. First of all, because I have a fairly common name, so most usernames are taken, but also because I didn't know if I wanted to focus on chronic illness specifically, or if I wanted to focus on mental health or like other aspects of my life, because I'm also a writer. So I was like, I don't know if I want to focus on that. And once I got involved in research, I was like, I don't know if I want to focus on that. And then I decided that I'm a multifaceted person and I can share all of those aspects, and all of it kind of falls under disability for me because all of my work and content it always kind of relates back to disability. So I thought, this is Disability with Anna, and that's what I'm going to be sharing. So that's kind of how I landed on that.
And that's a great way to find that sort of username, because a lot of the time with some people, like especially in this world when people tell you, oh, you need to find a niche or have a specialty. But with you, obviously, like you like to do a lot of things. And I think even with that, there's people who are scared to want to do everything because, a lot of discouragement around that. Like what is it? What's the phrase called? The jack of all trades, master of none type of deal. But I mean, I think it's beautiful when you want to do a lot of different things and put your experience and your knowledge to the test. So speaking of multifaceted, you do have an intersectional identity, which you made pretty aware on your Instagram and to a lot of people. So meaning that you're living with multiple chronic conditions and also like being queer and DESI as well. So how does that influence your advocacy in general?
It plays into it a lot. I want to always make sure that my content and what I'm sharing about my life addresses all like the major aspects of my life that it is impacting. So being a person of color and like specifically second generation Pakistani, I grew up in the South Asian community, and I didn't see a lot of disabled people around. At most, I saw some elders in the community using mobility aids, but even then it was very limited. And once I became ill, especially because it started more so in my teens, or it started getting worse in my teens, I noticed that my family, it was a process for them to come to understanding it, and they often told me not to really tell other people about it, to kind of keep it under wraps. And I think there's probably multiple reasons for that, but I think
Yeah.
part of it was just culturally, it's kind of seen as, maybe something shameful, or something you shouldn't be so open about or even proud about. And that was something that I really had to, like, it really internalized for me, and I really had to fight against that. And I honestly, it's an ongoing thing, but that's one of the reasons why I started posting in the first place, because I didn't see a lot of other young Desi people talking about, living with chronic illnesses, using mobility aids, and trying to find their way in the world like that. So, you know, I felt really alone when I was first diagnosed and my symptoms first worsened. And I was like, if I can make one other person feel less alone and feel like there's another person out there who looks like them or has similar experiences to them, and they're also going through this, that means so much to me, just that like another person doesn't have to feel alone in their experience. So that's kind of where that comes in. But also the with being queer, I guess a lot of people, I guess this just stems from like societal ableism, but a lot of people don't realize that disabled people are more than just disabled. They're disabled and queer. They're, disabled and have families. They're
Have a
disabled.
personality.
Exactly. Like they're not
Yeah.
just their conditions. So I wanted to share about that as well, especially because then this ties into, being racialized. I already don't see a lot of, Desi queer people out there, at least on the parts of social media and I'm on, and in person, not like I haven't really met any people. So beyond
Hmm.
that, just, a Desi queer disabled person, I didn't really see any other people. And I was like, this is also a way for me to put myself out there and meet other people. And I have met other people
Hmm.
with like similar intersectional identities. And so it's meant a lot to me personally, but also just wanting to make sure other people in similar situations don't feel so alone.
And since doing that, like posting on social media and wanting to spread that awareness, have you found that it's helped other people? Have they come to you saying, "Thank you so much, I was alone in this," and you've kind of helped them see a certain light that they didn't see before?
Yeah, I've had a bunch of messages from different people about different things I've posted where they've said, "Oh, this is something I hadn't considered. Thank you for sharing." Or it'll be like a tip or trick that I figured out that helps me manage my conditions, and someone will say, "Oh my God, that is so helpful. I wish I had thought of that." And there's things like that. But then there's also, I've had some other DC people say, "Thank you so much for sharing your experience as like a DC disabled person, because, I don't see any other people either." And that means so much to me because not only is it like partially the intention I'm going in with, but to have the intended sort of impact, it just it means so much to me. And I didn't this is not the direction I expected my life to go in, so I'm just glad that I'm able to help someone through my experiences.
Oh, wow. I do like hearing inspirational things like this, especially when it helps other people. And definitely continue doing what you're doing because it will reach even more people that haven't come across your page yet. So moving a little bit along towards like the chronic conditions and everything and understanding how that affects you. But could you briefly explain your condition? So ankylosing spondylitis and fibromyalgia, PMDD as well.
Sure. So, ankylosing spondylitis is a type of autoimmune arthritis, and it causes a lot of inflammation and pain in my joints. For me, it affects me more in my lower back and my sacroiliac joints, so like in the pelvis. Um, but it is a systemic condition, so it causes inflammation throughout the body, and all my other joints are affected as well. And
Mhm.
even my eyes, I have dry eyes now because of um, ankylosing spondylitis. Uh, so that's one of the conditions. But then I also have fibromyalgia, which is um, widespread pain
Pain.
and you know um, like mood difficulties and a lot of brain fog and even like sensitivity to light and noise and touch and getting headaches and stuff. And then um, the ankylosing spondylitis and fibromyalgia sometimes have similar symptoms as well. So I'm just in a lot of pain. So and they both cause a lot of fatigue as well. So that's why I started using a cane and use a walker frequently as well. PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, is one of the conditions I was diagnosed with more recently, just like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's basically like during the menstrual cycle, like the hormonal changes that you have, I basically am more sensitive to the like highs and lows that it goes through, especially right before your period, like that week or so. So I experienced increased and like exacerbated mental and physical symptoms. So my pain and fatigue worsen a lot to the point where I'm not really able to get out of bed. And
And that's all
my
fibro pain as
yeah,
well.
yeah, that's on top of that. Uh, and my mental symptoms worsen a lot more. So I already live with anxiety and depression, but they're mostly manageable for me with medication and coping methods, and just having lived with it for most of my life, I've found ways to manage. But it really worsens my depression and anxiety to the point where um, I feel like suicidal, and I am so anxious and so irritable, and um I literally don't feel like myself during those moments because I feel so angry. I'm making like impulsive sort of
Yeah.
decisions. And even for people around me, like my close relationships, like they've said, that time can be difficult for them as well. So um sorry, that's my cat meowing in the background. um
That's
um yeah, so that can be really difficult on top of my existing conditions. And I'm basically not functional during that week. And from my conversations with my doctor and my psychiatrist, nothing has really been helping the PMDD. I've been trying other like different things that I've seen online to try and help it, but that's sometimes that's the condition I struggle with the most. So
yeah.
yeah, long-winded explanation.
No, but it all makes sense, and it's. I mean, obviously, like going through that. I mean, I can't imagine, especially trying to function every single day, putting a smile on your face, and then having to basically interact with people who do not understand. So people close around you, they have an understanding because you explain it to them, but people that don't know you, don't know what you're going through, and then having to kind of deal with that as well. So yeah, that's definitely something where I think there needs to be more conversation around, especially like just simple education, at least just what can come out of these conditions. So then there's some sort of awareness there that is a good start. But just speaking on that, because I know fibromyalgia, that's something where it's very difficult to diagnose. I mean, so I was very shocked when you put fibromyalgia, because that must have taken so long for you to get diagnosed with that. And also, it's super under researched, especially with the ethnic minority groups as well. So definitely want to understand like your take on that, but also like in research, like have you joined any research studies involving fibromyalgia? I mean, on PROBr, we definitely have a section where we're encouraging more research around fibromyalgia.
So with fibromyalgia, my rheumatologist was actually great. It took me a while to be able to get to the rheumatologist, so that took a couple of years. But once I met my rheumatologist, I was diagnosed with um, AS and fibro like within a year. And
Mm-hmm.
all like the tests were done to exclude anything else, especially since um, I think there's newer research that says fibromyalgia is a neurological condition. So just
Mm-hmm.
making sure that my symptoms of like numbness in my hands and feet and that sort of like tingling pain,
Are
um,
intact.
yeah, and that it's not caused by something like MS or something else. So I had all those tests done, and um, I was just having most of the symptoms of fibromyalgia, and my rheumatologist said that, um, because it is an exclusionary diagnosis, he was like, I'm pretty sure this is what you have, and because it doesn't align with anything else. So I do feel like I have it. I'm like a part of some support groups and like advocacy groups as well, and we share a lot of similar experiences. So so I, fibromyalgia is a big part of my life, and it it kind of sucks sometimes because I feel like there's more medication and treatment for ankylosing spondylitis, but there isn't really much for fibromyalgia. Like for me, the antidepressants I'm on help with the sort of like fibromyalgia nerve pain. So it's like two birds, one stone for me. But it is there's nothing that really helps with the fatigue or any of the other like symptoms that I have with brain fog or allodynia. So it can be very frustrating. And I agree there isn't a lot of research done about it. And I wish there was more. And I've been involved in some research about rheumatic diseases, about arthritis, but I haven't been a part of anything regarding fibromyalgia. And I would jump at the opportunity if I saw something, but like that's the thing. There's not enough happening surrounding fibromyalgia.
Mhm.
So I'm always on the lookout, and it's great to know that PROBr is encouraging that as well. But yeah, it is difficult to find opportunities surrounding fibromyalgia.
And with PPIE, so patient and public involvement, you're involved with that as well. So you're involved in a lot of things, which is amazing. And I love that because people who may think I don't have research experience, this is probably not something I should do. But you're showing that you can, especially if you are a patient. That's even more reason why you should be involved. How is patient and public involvement, like PPIE? What is that, and why is it important for more patients to be involved in it?
I honestly, that's something I've gotten more passionate about more recently. I want to say in the past year or so. Here in Canada, it's called patient engagement and research.
Yeah.
And just because I know I'll forget the acronym. Um, but I actually got involved in patient engagement through my awareness on social media. So then I heard of some other organizations uh, like regarding my conditions, and I joined those, and I was made aware of some research opportunities and getting involved in research, and that just really spoke to me because again, that need for representation and inclusive like awareness that also naturally applies to research, because not only do you want the research like participants to be inclusive so that the study is more credible and more applicable to real life people, the research team should also be diverse, because
Mhm.
how can you be helping diverse populations if there's no one bringing like additional perspectives to the team? I think
Exactly.
that's something that a lot of people don't recognize. And I know patient engagement in research is perhaps a newer concept, but I think it's so important because how can you do research for certain groups without some of those people being involved? And because that just creates a further disconnect. And like I was kind of doing some of that stuff on my own, not so much the research aspect, but like really voicing online that I wish I knew more people who look like me, who have my conditions. And over time, I have found some people online through the amazing disability and chronic illness community. But even when I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, I remember my rheumatologist telling me, this is a disease that affects mostly white men. And I was like, then why do I have it? I was really confused. And once I started looking into it more, I realized that they simply haven't done research with more diverse groups. So that's naturally going to skew those results. And then that's going to be confusing for people being diagnosed with conditions, but also it it won't be as applicable for them trying to figure out how to live with those conditions because the ways that it manifests in white men, maybe it doesn't manifest like that in other groups. Maybe management looks different. Maybe like diagnosis time could be reduced if those people were also included in that. So
Yeah,
that's
I
something
agree
I
with
try
you.
to bring to all the research projects that I get involved in, whether it's specifically for my conditions or disability more broadly, or even just like a patient perspective. I'm always just like, okay, are we talking to these people? Are we considering their needs and
Mhm.
how this will eventually impact them? Because, at the end of the day, it's for them, it's about them.
Mhm. Exactly. And just like what you said, participants definitely diverse, but the research teams, they need to be diverse as well. Because if you're dealing with a patient who has different background, it's not even just about understanding the conditions that are similar to that research person, but also understanding the emotional aspect and the psychological aspect that they may be able to understand. It doesn't have to go as far as cultural differences, but just the patient feeling safe and seeing someone similar to them. If a Black person's doing a trial and it's with drugs and they see a bunch of white people, it's not to say that they'll feel discomfort, but they'll feel more comfortable if they saw someone similar to them who can hopefully understand how they're feeling and give them some sort of reassurance during that process. It's the same thing in medicine as well. With a medical doctor, you just feel more comfortable with someone who looks similar to you, just because you have a subconscious thought that they may understand what you're going through. And definitely, I do agree with that. And especially with a lot of skewed results. I mean, just like with the oximeter bias, how it doesn't give proper results for people with pigmented skin. So it's similar to wearing nail polish, and they tell you don't wear nail polish while you're getting an oximeter reading. Like they take it off because it can skew the results. It's the same
Mhm.
effect with that. It's because they've created that device for people with like non-pigmented people, basically. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling hesitant or feel fearful about participating in research, especially those underserved communities?
I'd say that, you know, you're bringing something valuable to the table. Your lived experience is something that no researcher can, you know, bring to the table. What you experience, your perspectives really strengthen research and ultimately help someone else who could be in a similar position to you. I I know it can be daunting, especially sometimes because, it's the world of academia and, these are researchers with degrees and, like tenure at these institutions. And that can be like terrifying, honestly, as someone who might not have those things. But you're bringing something that is invaluable, truly, and will really make a difference. And that's something that you can't study. It's something that you live and something that you bring to the table.
Yeah, you beautifully said. Where can the listeners who will be watching this, where can they get started in terms of support in your advocacy work, or even just doing patient engagement? Like, how can they get started with that?
I think a great way is to connect with local advocacy and awareness groups and organizations. They are usually connected to some either researchers specifically or with institutions. And often they reach out to these organizations about studies that they're doing. They're usually aware about these sorts of opportunities. So if you get involved and let them know that that's something you're interested in, they can not only connect you with those groups and facilitate that relationship, they can also support you. They can offer some sort of like training or workshops to help you feel more prepared. And they can also, I guess this might differ from organization to organization, but they could even have someone come with you and help you navigate this. So I know that some organizations here offer modules or like a short training program where you can learn more about the research process and how you specifically as a patient could get involved. So there's things like that, but also you can reach out to organizations like PROBr. Like there are research spaces that, like safe research spaces that post these sorts of opportunities and can also help facilitate that. So it's just about making those initial connections. I know that can be scary, but honestly, most of these organizations are more than happy to have people come and join.
And just like she said, these organizations, they welcome people, and it may not seem that way because, they have so many other things to worry about in terms of advertising different things. But even like she mentioned, like with PROBr, our research platform, you go on it and you can sign up to different research studies. And that's a great way to get started, from surveys. So just starting out small and just even answering surveys can make a big impact, understanding how we can change policies in healthcare, but even helping to improve treatments, making them less invasive or making them more effective. So definitely getting started, signing up to research studies, or just like she mentioned with patient engagement, going to those organizations and building that relationship, and they can get you started with that. But it's really as simple as, going on a website or calling. So yeah, Anna, this was such a great conversation. And obviously due to time, I wish we could go longer. I mean, maybe there might be a part two for this, but I definitely enjoyed this and getting to know you as well and what you're going through. You are such a strong person. And I know you hear that all the time, but I really, truly want you to be more selfish with yourself. If you can't do something or you don't want to do something right now, you have every right to decline that and give yourself time and, a healthy mental space. But just hearing your story and just like what you're doing every day, posting on social media while going through all this and trying to help other patients, it's beautiful. And I do wish you nothing but the best and want your account to flourish even more for that reason.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you.